Hello all, welcome to the part 3 of this video series. For questions 1 to 15, please refer parts 1 and 2 of this video series. In this part, we will look at some more questions. Please remember, these are real questions or near to real questions. The focus should be understanding the concepts explained in these questions. Please focus on how we arrive at the right answer. If you learn that technique, then clearing the exam would be easy, even if you are not getting same questions. Please subscribe to my channel because this keeps me motivated to put in more contents which are lucrative for you guys to understand the concepts and clear the cloud certifications. Please remember, this channel is dedicated to help you clear the cloud certifications. Primarily the focus area are AWS and Azure certifications. Now let's jump into the questions. This question is just a refresher. If you have gone through my earlier videos, parts 1 and 2, you would be able to answer this. The correct answer for this is option C. That is, you would want to save the actual execution plan. But let's scan through the options and understand why option C is the right answer. The main purpose of query capture mode is to understand which queries can be parameterized. So there are three options: all, top, and none. Top is used to focus on attention on top queries which are used by the clients. This is nowhere related to our answer because we have to compare the two execution plans, the previous execution plan with the live query statistics. Live query statistics will give you the live execution plan and details of live query which is getting executed. Now if you see show plan, what it does is it will cause the Microsoft SQL Server not to execute the transaction SQL statements, but it will give you a forecast of kind of estimates of what resource requirements will be needed by these statements. So this is very important to understand. If that's the case, then it will not suffice the purpose because we want to compare the previous execution plan, the previous query execution plan also, and this will only show you the current query execution plan, and it will only show you the estimated execution plan. It will not show you the actual execution plan of the current query also. So B is ruled out. Now what does query store do is it will store a lot of information about the various execution plans for various queries. Okay, but you will have to go to the SSMS and save the actual execution plan. So if you want to compare it. But in this case, I am a bit confused because both the options looks correct. If we enable the query store, what does query store do is it will keep collecting the statistics. Okay, and so the only thing that I see why option C is more correct than D is because once you have executed the query, after that if you want to enable it, if you want to do it first, when you the first thing, like this question itself is a bit confusing. The first thing we should do is when we ran the previous query and got the actual execution plan, that time the query store should already have enabled. That's why C looks more correct, because I will save the actual execution plan in the SSMS and then compare it with the current live query statistics. So we will go ahead with option C as answer. Let's look at the next question. So you are running a stored procedure and it is slow. You are suspecting that the query that run before that has regressed and which is causing a performance issue. Now you want to run the query execution plan to understand if the regressed query is causing this issue. Then with minimal effort, what option should you use? So all the query details are stored in the query store. So you can directly use query store to understand if the regress query is causing any issue. Query performance insight will give you the resources that is being used by the query, for example DTUs, etc. So if you see here, the documentation stays, it will give you a deeper insight into your database's resources, that is DTU consumption, etc. And it will also give you annotations that show performance recommendations, etc. Hence query performance insight will not suffice here, because if you want to know if the regressed query is using how many resources, what resources, and how much DTU, then you can use this. Otherwise, just to know if the regressed query is the cause of the performance bottleneck, then C will suffice. But let's look at extended events. What are extended events? Extended events are an extension of dynamic management views. So extended events are lightweight performance monitoring system that enables users to collect data to monitor and troubleshoot problems. So that is the recommendation. Basically, it is a performance monitoring system, but this will work only for the live. So if you have live queries or active queries, the inner operations of that SQL system and your application, you can work with that. But what our question is asking is, it is also asking about the regressed query. So option B will not help you with the regressed query. Again, performance recommendations option A will only work for active queries. It will not work for regressed queries. So we will lock our answer as option C. So this is our answer. query store. So if you see the documentation around query store automatically captures history of queries, plans, and runtime statistics. But it will do it for current queries as well as for past queries. So you see this history of queries, that is important. So here we can see our regressed query and understand what is the performance impact. So we will lock this answer and move forward. Let's look at the next question. Basically, you are having a database and you have a column and you are using column store index, and now you have used archival compression for the column store index. Which two possible results of each of this configuration? So basically you have to select two answers out of these 5. So the question here is about archival compression for column store indexes. The first thing is, queries that use the index will consume more disk IO. No, because it will consume less disk IO, because what is happening is the data is compressed, so the disk IOs that will happen, it is happening in the compressed form, and that's why there will be no greater impact. It will be minimized and not maximized. So A is wrong. Option B suggests queries that use index will retrieve few data pages. Yes, because since the data is compressed, it will retrieve few data pages. So if you see here, it says the data is stored in fewer pages and queries need to read fewer pages on the disk. Hence, option B is correct. Now we have to look for one more answer. The option C says the index will consume more disk space. No, the data is in the compressed form. You are doing archival compression, the data is in the compressed form. If the data is in the compressed form, just like your Windows zip file, it will require less disk space. So suppose if you have a file, a big file, and which is about 2 MB, and then you are compressing it and it becomes suppose 500 KB, then it is to store that zip file you need less disk space. That's why C is wrong. D says the index will consume more memory. No, since our data is already compressed, your memory requirements will also be less. The only thing that will happen is it will consume more CPU resources, because it will have to compress and uncompress. That will put a load on the CPU resources. That's why option E is also right. So if you see here, it says for these situations you can afford extra time and extra CPU resources to store and retrieve the data. So that is what is happening. You will spend more CPU resources. So that validates our answer. Options B and E are the right answers. Let's move forward to the next question. So basically in this question you have a server agent job that is running on a database, and this is a SQL database which is a managed instance. And what you want to do is, if the job completes, you want to send an automatic email notification. So what should you include in the solution? That is the question. So it's simple. After the job run, you have to send an automatic alert that the job has been completed. So option A suggests that you have to enable SQL Server agent, but here the agent is already running. There is an agent job which is already running. That means it is already enabled. So A is not required. A is not the right answer. B says you run SP set SQL agent properties. So if you see this documentation, this SP get SQL agent properties is a stored procedure, and that is run to see last 10 job history records. So it keeps limited job history, and you can see that via executing this stored procedure, and these are the two columns which you can refer to. But here we don't want to do that. We want to send automatic email notification. That is your problem statement. So B is wrong. C says you will create a database mail profile. This looks correct because you have to do that. Now if you see this documentation, to these are the high level steps. You have to create a profile, database mail profile, then you have to create an account, you have to configure the messaging objects, and then you have to configure SQL Server agent mail to use the database, and then you can configure log and audits also, like the mails were sent to whom and when, etc. Now if you see the Azure Monitor Action Group, this is specifically to monitor certain key metrics, and this is not a metrics. This is just a job getting over. This is not a metrics. If it was a metrics, then you could have used this push notification or SMS, etc. But this is not related to a metrics. This is just a job, so it will not apply. So option D is wrong. So we will lock option C as the right answer and move forward. Let's look at question number 20. Please have a read carefully. So basically the question says you have two servers, server 1 and 2, and both has databases, and you want to restore database 1 from server 1 to server 2. The solution must replace the existing database 1 on server 2. So what you have to do is, so you have two databases and they are in different servers. So you want to drop this and replace this database with this database. Okay. Now this question has also proposed the solution. The solution says you delete the database 1 from server 2. That is, this is the server 2. You delete this database. That's what they are saying. And then they are saying you take this backup and create a new database here with this backup. Will this work or not? This will not work. because in this case you have to use the restore and replace option, and the backup option will not work. You have to do a restore and replace. That's why this is wrong. Now this is the same question but a different solution that they have given. They are saying you run remove az database PowerShell command on database. So they are trying to remove the database on server 2. Okay, and then you run the restore. So remove and restore. What it is saying is on this database you fire the remove command and then you fire the restore command. Okay, but you know, restore has to be happened from this copy has to be restored, not this copy. So that option will also not work. So the answer is no. Only restore and replace will work here. So this brings us to the fag end of this video, part 3. Please subscribe to my channel and like my videos. It keeps me motivated to put in more content similar to this, which will help you clear these certification exams. See you in the next part of the video.